Welcome to day 2 of the I Can't Organize a Piss Up in a Brewery. Excuse me. I had expected a lot more activity today, considering the price action of yesterday. I'll show you my account. It's an absolute red, sea of red. Everything that I am in is losing me money, except my stock position, which I've had for ages. I think I'd like to show you what we can expect today. So the way I do this is go to Forex Factory and go to the calendar, and then you go to yesterday and you click more and more. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go through these dates here, and then I'll post them one by one. I'm just gonna take a screenshot of that, because it sort of gives you an idea of, or give me an idea of what I can expect today from the US. Because it really feels clear to me that the European markets are just treading water, waiting for the US to respond to yesterday. There's a gentleman called Rhythmic who has made an absolute fantastic segmentation of the. Maybe we should just post it in Telegram. I can't thank you enough. I think I'm going to get stopped out of the DAX as well once more. This is a bit of a slap in the face, considering I've already been short. Been stopped out in the DAX. Gone. Actually, I had an order. Sold 50 more than I should have. So the DAX is actually down there where I shorted it 2 hours ago. I shorted it down at somewhere between 47 and 50. And then it spiked all the way up to 725. And I got stopped out and now we're back down again. It's probably the thing I hate the most about having positions on is that you have to have a stop loss in place, even though if you're absolutely certain on a theme for the day, but you need to have a place to put a stop loss. You put the stop loss, you get hit, and then an hour later you're back down to where you shorted in the first place. It's that's a real stomach crunch. I was like, oh, really? Just gotta get it back on the horse. But to me, at times those are the times where I get really confused and I begin to question myself, saying, well, was I right in the first place, or should I use this as a buy opportunity? Because the market, I mean, right from the opening bell, the DAX just flew up immediately, very, very significantly. And then it was just as if, right, we don't really care now. And I really wish I understood what that was all about. Why the sellers didn't come out earlier, but that's trading for you. I still have a short position in the FTSE. love to tell you a story. It was I can look at the calendar. I think it was the 29th of Feb last year. It was a Saturday, and a friend of mine called me. No, wait, he called me before that. He called me on the Thursday evening, and he said to me, "You know that 500-day cycle? When is that up?" And I said, "Well, let me check." So, duly logged into my e-signal. You can't see what I'm doing right now. And I said to him, well, the high was on the 1st of October 2018. So this would put it as that would put the 72-week cycle as the 10th of Feb 2020. And when he spoke to me, it must have been the on the 17th of Feb. So he said to me, so basically the 500-day cycle may already have peaked. And I said, yeah, I think it has. So we spoke about the evolving situation that was going on with COVID. And I said to him, I have a friend here in the Telegram group whose wife is a nurse at a hospital in Tehran. And she's coming home and telling me that the patients are coming in, they're very ill, they have breathing problems, and they don't have any kind of protection to treat the patients. So my friend said to me, surely this would mean that it has now moved from Asia over to the Middle East, and it will just be a question of time before we here in Europe will begin to see a proliferation of cases. And so we spoke a good while about the scenarios and what could happen. And we based our projections on two things. One being what was going on in Wuhan. And the second thing was my experiences with the 500-day cycle. And so we decided that before the day was over and the following day, we would have to be short stock indices. And so we duly did. And, just by pure luck from our point of view, that was the first week of the really bad decline where the market went limit down. And we basically stayed short as much as we possibly could for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And in the process, I think he made about £8 million. I won't tell you how much I made. But the story doesn't end there. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is that people who will watch these YouTube videos, it's doubtful that they will ever watch this particular segment. You may wonder why I got so annoyed yesterday during that trading session, because it was just another trading session. And to me, doing what we are doing here is extraordinarily difficult, because you are exposed. And the thing about the market is you don't have to wait very long before you're right or you're wrong. And what I have noticed is that there is a segment of the people that are viewing that at the moment that things aren't going well, and these are some of my best friends, they will be very quick to point out things aren't going very well, are they? So for example, a friend of mine, I shall not name his name, he said, it hasn't been a very good 24 hours. And I'm thinking to myself, why is he saying that? Is it because he needs to somehow let go of his emotion, because then that gives him some kind of relief of the frustration that he's experiencing? And is he so short-sighted that perhaps the last thing I need to be reminded of is how freaking bad the last 24 hours have been? And I came to the conclusion that, he is an otherwise supportive and a pleasant man all around. But he obviously has this element of frustration that he's following me and I'm not making money. And he simply can't help himself, but he has to express that. And what's the context between the story about catching the 500-day cycle top back in February 2020 and making life-changing money to this? Well, it is that there's this story about a group of managers that run a company, and one day they are approached by a competitor, a bigger competitor who wants to buy them. And all of a sudden their life is turned into turmoil because they are flattered, but they also want to protect what they built up themselves. Anyway, the merger goes through. There's been months and months of activity on a very high level, and they go back down to a more normal level of activity. And one of them notes saying, it's very difficult to become the normal manager again in the day-to-day realms of running a business when you've been engaged in high activity negotiation for months. And all of a sudden you have to deal with trivialities of people saying, well, I don't get on with Bob. And then Bob goes, I don't get on with Bill. And all of a sudden your life has once again been reduced into its almost most common, lowest common denominator. And having traded through those 4 weeks and have done them probably as a private trader, probably up there with the top 10 in the world. And then you back down again to this, right, lost 40 points in the DAX, fuck it, man. 40 points came and went a year ago, like you didn't even blink and the market had moved 40 points. And I guess I just wanted you guys to be mindful of something, and that is, I do not need to be reminded of whether the last few days have been good or bad. I really don't. And the reason why I reacted the way I did to a guy called Brent yesterday was because I felt that Brent was so focused on what was happening in his own microcosmos, and that he hadn't actually done his work. I got angry because I didn't get angry because he was right and I was wrong. I got angry because I was able to see the much bigger picture. And the much bigger picture was that of all the examples of the post-FOMC announcement, the price action we saw, I'm not going to say I was 100% certain, but I fucking certain that we would bounce, and we would bounce violently. And when all is said and done, when we ended the day, we more or less ended the day where we were before the announcement. So in that sense, I was right. But who cares about being right? It's not about being right. It's about making money. That's what this is all about. So I might be rambling a little bit, and I'm gonna take myself down a notch as well here, because as much money as I made in February, March last year, I was also painfully slow to accept the new change of circumstances, that the market actually was going back up again. And not in a million years could I have imagined, if you had asked me when the Dow hit 18,000, and I remember the day so well, because I was talking to my friend and we were saying, wow, we are below 20,000 now. Do you think we're going to go down to the US election lows of 2016? Now we headed down to 16,000. But not in a million years could I have imagined that a year later the Dow would more or less have doubled. Not in a million years. And I guess in a sense, I'm defending myself a little bit here from whatever criticism would have been bestowed upon me yesterday, in that I live and breathe these markets virtually around the clock. Twice during the night, I have had big positions on running during the night, and twice during the night I actually check. And I woke up at 3:30 and haven't actually slept since. And for me, it's now about 11 o'clock. Went out running, didn't feel like it, but you gotta just stick to the discipline. You gotta stick to the routine. And if the routine is you gotta exercise, I gotta go out there and I gotta work my body, because then I trade better. Then whether you like it or not, you have to do it. And then when whoever he is comes along and criticize you, I just brush it off, like I would brush off my friend saying that it hasn't been a very good 24 hours. But when you just you burnt through $120,000, you had to be a pretty spectacular human being not to be a little bit annoyed, a little bit peeved. And then I call them rear view mirror traders, the ones that always knows best after the fact, but they'll never post it. They'll never post their signals to you live or in real time. They just lost it. Just lost it. Fuck off. So that's kind of the story. What to me is interesting now is that 500-day cycle, the 72-week cycle, is approaching again. And by the way, I'm not even going to go and read your comments now, because I don't really care what you think about what I just said. I know what my truth is. I know how hard I work every single day to make this happen. Not for you. Not for any kind of glorification in YouTube. Not so I can go into a helicopter and say I did this. No. I do this because I love trading. And even these moments where I am down and I've lost a lot of money, if I didn't have those moments, the victories wouldn't be nearly as sweet. They just wouldn't. The victories would just become bland. So you do have to, you can't appreciate a night sky if you didn't have daylight. It's just, it's the contrast that is God's creation that enhances beauty. And I'm not a God believer, but it's just something I say in order to get a point across, that I wouldn't want to be a trader without having these god-awful days where you just feel that you cannot put a foot right. As I started off saying, welcome to day 2 of I cannot organize a piss-up in a brewery. I couldn't hit a barn with a shotgun even if I stood right in front of it. That's trading. what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start posting them in the Telegram group. One by one. I take you guys can follow it on Telegram. Take a look at the one I'm just about to post now. This is the one from the 10th of June. here it comes. Anyway, I think I'll carry on with posting those charts for you. I hope that will give you an insight into what we can expect today. Yeah, and I'm not annoyed to see the DAX back to where it's just one of those days, man. It's just one of those days. So I think I'll pause here. I'll see you this afternoon. I'm doing something for Round the Clock Trader at noon, so I want to go and prepare that for them.